Hey guys, it's Hans Hobbies, and this is a review of the HPI Savage XS Flux. This is a four-wheel drive, brushless powered monster truck you can get for around $320 to $350 depending on the version you can get. This particular Von Gittin Jr. version with the standard HPI body is about 320 bucks, 330 depending on where you look. And then there is currently a El Camino version with a licensed El Camino body, which is more like 350. And the differences between the two versions is literally just color schemes, bodies, and wheels and tires. The El Camino version will come with the standard wheels and tires of the Savage XS Flux, and then this Von Gittin Jr. version will come with these Hot Bodies tires, which I think are much softer, look much nicer, and probably perform better than the complete standard tires. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. This is a pretty small truck. This is not 1/10 scale, though it does use 10th scale parts. This is probably close to around a 1/12 scale vehicle, so it's on the small side. So body options may be a little bit limited, especially bodies that will be able to handle the punishment that this thing will dish out. The body clips that are on it are really nice and beefy body clips, steel body clips, so that's really nice. But the overall presentation of the truck is really nice. The color scheme I'm a big fan of. The graphics and all the stickers, the green wheels. This particular wheel style on this version I think looks really nice. And then the tires is a very like racy tread pattern, so it looks very high performance. The bumpers, nice durable bumpers front and rear. And taking off the body is a pretty thick Lexan body, really durable. Hasn't really broken on me. You can see there's a little bit of road rash on the hood, and you can see a little tiny hole right there just from it wearing through, but it hasn't really cracked or anything on me, so I think that's a pretty good body. The rounded shape of the body also adds to the durability. Looking under the truck, you can see it's a pretty unique design as far as monster trucks go these days. Most trucks these days use like a bathtub style or a tub style chassis, whereas this one uses more the traditional twin vertical plate chassis style. This is basically a scaled down version of the 8 scale Savage. So you see the two vertical plates. They are very stiff and thick plastic plates, so that's pretty nice. Waterproof receiver box. There's a shroud over here with the servo in here. It's a plastic gear servo, unfortunately. And then it has a really powerful Hobbywing brushless motor that they have branded as their HPI Flux system. Same thing with the ESC. Nice powerful ESC there. All the electronics are waterproof. And then the battery goes on this side, and it just uses these clips right here. No body clips or anything like that. These little tabs that you just rotate, and it just hinges open, and you can just fit a regular 2S LiPo pack in there. It'll fit right in. You just gotta tuck in your wires a little bit, and that it is designed to fit this style of battery, and it fits very nicely in there. Just pinching the wires. You just gotta adjust the wires a little bit, and it'll fit in there. So that's pretty nice that it uses a standard battery. You don't have to use like some weird size mini battery like a lot of smaller scale RC monster trucks tend to make you do. The shocks on it are adjustable, threaded body, but they are plastic. But they are set up pretty nicely. Probably one of the nicest setup shocks I've ever seen on an RC car, RTR. You can see there's very little like springiness, like bounce back, and then the damping rate's also really nice. It's just a really nice suspension system and suspension setup overall. It has metal dog bones for the drivetrain. Metal dog bones for the center drivetrain as well. It has a slipper clutch in there. What else? All the links and stuff like that are non-adjustable plastic pieces because this is a basher, so you really want durability over adjustment. The arms are identical, front and rear, so you can swap those back and forth, so that's nice. The knuckles are also swappable left to right, but not front to back. And you can see down here, pretty unique look down here as well. Adjustable body posts. Very nice looking truck. Having gone over some of the features about this thing, let's go take it outside and see how it drives. As soon as you pull the throttle trigger on this thing, you're going to realize how much power this thing really has. If you really underestimate it and just really pull on that throttle, this is how this thing's gonna drive for basically the entirety of the pack. I do have different wheels and tires on here because in this particular condition, the stock tires would not grip at all. But even if they do have grip, it is very fast and very hard to control. This requires a very experienced hobbyist. This is definitely not a car for a child or a beginner. But if you do have that throttle discipline and know how to drive it, even in a small backyard like this, it can be quite fun. It drives through the grass really well, despite being a pretty small truck. The wheels and tires for the size of the truck is technically kind of big, and also being four-wheel drive and having all that power definitely helps it power through even grass and tougher off-road terrain like this. You can see I'm taking on another little skateboard jump, and it does the jumps pretty decently. How it controls in the air, you do need to be careful and control it in the air manually, because otherwise it's just gonna do backflips. It's just the nature of the beast. But yeah, I did quite enjoy driving this thing in my backyard. So here in a larger parking lot, I'm able to open this thing up all the way. I have different wheels and tires still on the rear again because in this condition it just wouldn't get any traction. So I had to do this so it would at least drive straight and for me to gauge how fast it would go. And top speed on this thing, I don't have a radar gun, but I would estimate it at probably around 30-35 miles an hour out of the box, which is pretty quick for how small and short this thing is. On the 3S pack and definitely grip your tires and on the right conditions, you could probably hit 45-50 with this thing. And while saying that, you always have to keep in mind how small and short wheelbase this thing is. It's not like a Arma infraction or something. It's just not going to be able to be controllable. But because of all that power, I actually enjoyed this thing a lot more in loose surfaces like this, and like light dusting of snow or loose dirt or something like that. Just the way it drives, just sliding around, throwing up rooster tails. Just was an absolute joy to drive. It also jumps fantastically high because of all that power. And HPI definitely knows how to tune their vehicles, so it's a very well handling truck. You just have to know how to control it. So I'll talk more about durability in a second, but I just wanted to show you guys some clips from my durability test of this thing. This truck is definitely not for a beginner, like I said, but even non-beginners will crash sometimes, and when you do, especially at the high velocity that this thing crashes, you want to see it survive. So as far as durability goes with this truck, unfortunately I did have quite a number of breakages, though a caveat there is this truck was driven in very freezing temperatures at the skate park, and it has a really powerful brushless system, so and the truck's also pretty dense and weighs a decent bit for how small it is. So all of those things add up to catastrophe, basically. But even with that said, a lot of parts did end up breaking. My body posts here, you can see these snapped in half, both front and rear. They still hold the body fine, but they are broken. This roll bar broke up here when I landed on its roof at the skate park. You can see my stub axle back here is missing, and the stub axle up here is just freewheeling because I broke two of the stub axles on here doing some cartwheels. The stub axles do seem like an actual weak point. The rest of it can be chalked up to plastic parts and freezing temperatures, but these stub axles, metal stub axles, shouldn't be really breaking, so that is definitely a weak point. And the chassis down here, you can see a big chunk of it is missing. There's a crack going down this half of the transmission, this half of the chassis, and this shroud here is also cracked pretty bad. I had to replace the screw back here with a longer screw so I could still mount the shroud on, because that part also broke and cracked. So quite a number of parts that cracked and broke on this, but those parts are replaceable and they're fixable, and the parts are readily available. So I don't think that's a huge problem. My main issue with the truck was the slipper clutch. The slipper clutch design I do not like. The slipper clutch material I do not like. The slipper clutch material is very sensitive to moisture. So if it gets wet in any way, it tends to slip and break down. The slipper clutch is also internal in the transmission, and so it's next to all the other grease covered gears and stuff like that. So if it gets water in it and the grease gets moves around, or the grease just moves around in general, that tends to make the slipper clutch slip. Another thing is the slipper clutch adjustment nut here in the spring. They tend to back off because it's not a lock nut. It's just a regular nut, and it's a strange design, so that tends to loosen up as well, which will make the slipper clutch slip. So all of that adds up to a pretty poor design slipper clutch, and I think that's its only main problem. Other than that, everything else can be fixed yourself and can be adjusted and tuned, so not a huge deal, but that slipper clutch is pretty unfortunate. So as far as my overall recommendation for this truck, if you really want this truck, I'm not gonna come out and stop you. It is a really cool truck. It is very fast. It's very exciting to drive, and overall you might have a bit better luck in terms of durability than me, especially if you're driving it in warmer climates. But personally, it's not a truck that I would buy again unless HPI were to do a version 2 and update some of the problems with this truck. And some of those problems, I think they definitely need to update that slipper clutch design. That's a pretty poor design in my opinion. So slipper clutch needs to be updated. Maybe offer a brushed version of this, a cheaper brushed edition of this, which will get this truck in the hands of a lot more people, which will make parts support and aftermarket support more readily available. And even with the brushless edition, I think the novelty of the huge power kind of wears off after a couple packs. At least it did for me. So personally, I think it could use a slightly weaker brushless system. If you do want to do the huge jumps and crazy jumps and stuff like that, there's always the option of slapping a 3S battery in there. As it is out of the box, I don't recommend you run it on 3S at all. It's going to be absolutely destroyed if you run it on 3S. It's already broke quite a lot of parts, even just on 2S in cold weather, which doesn't help, but it did break a lot of parts, and it did crash a lot even just on 2S. So maybe gear it down a little bit, or have like a weaker, a bit slower brushless system in there. And I think those updates would definitely help the vehicle. The stub axles are also pretty weak, so maybe CV axles or something that can, or maybe a stronger stub axle design would also help. And if HPI were able to make some of those minor tweaks on there, I think overall this is going to be a really nice truck to drive and more worth the money that you pay for it. As far as value goes, personally, I don't think the value is really there. People may argue with the explosive power and performance that this thing has, it is worth the high price point. But in my opinion, the chassis does not stand up to the power that this thing has. So I don't think the value is there in that aspect. The parts for HPI vehicles at the moment are a little bit pricey because they tend to be a little bit scarce. You can get parts for this from Hobby Recreation Products or HRP in the United States. So parts are readily available at the moment, but they are a little bit pricey compared to some other trucks. And for over $300, there's a lot of competition out there that, in my opinion, I think does a little bit better than this. The Arma Granite 4x4 seems like it's a pretty durable truck, a lot more easier to work on that one. And it's the same price as this, brushless system. Really durable, very reputable company, very good part support. My Red Cat RC MT10E is cheaper than this at $299. That one's brushless, full metal transmission and everything like that. It's not quite as fast as this, but it has stood up to the power plant that it has. It's been a little bit more durable. And the parts support for that is also really good because Red Cat is stepping up their parts support and their distribution base. So that's also a really good option. My Red Cat Landslide XTE is a $300 truck as well, but that one's a 1/8 scale truck, so much larger truck. 4S truck's a much faster truck as well, but so a lot of competition out there. If you're looking for a brushless four-wheel drive monster truck that is specifically smaller like this, maybe it might be a good choice for you. The overall design of it and the performance of it, I do like a lot more than the Traxxas 1/16 scale line, which is probably what this thing competes more closely against. But it is a little bit more difficult to work on. It is a little bit more difficult to drive, just in terms of its power plant. If you drive it a little bit slower, if it had a slower power plant, if it didn't go quite as fast, it handles way better than the Traxxas ever does in stock form. But with the power plant that it has, I don't know if I can quite recommend it wholeheartedly. People will enjoy it for what it is, but for me personally, I don't think I would buy this again in the state that it is at. But if you are interested in buying this truck, it is available from Hobby Recreation Products, or Amazon has them. eBay is selling them now in some of your local hobby shops, maybe carrying these again. So it is readily available, and if you are interested in something like this, or you just, despite what I said, you still think this is an awesome truck, go ahead and get one. I don't think you're gonna be unhappy with it. It's just I have a lot of other trucks that do what this thing does a little bit more to my liking. So it's not something I will probably keep around for a long time, or would probably buy again. So that's my opinion, and that's my review of the HPI Savage XS Flux. If you enjoyed this video or found it informative or helpful, give me a like, subscribe, comment down below, all the good YouTube shenanigans, and I will see you guys next time.